Good afternoon to you. Mark Suttoth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your hurricane outlook and discussion for Saturday, the 24th of June, 2017. Let's take a look at what's happening in the Eastern Pacific. This is Eastern Pacific Invest Area 93 and EP for Eastern Pacific, or 93E. 90% chance of formation over the next 5 days. This will give you an idea of where it's located on a map. And you can see it's well off the coast of Mexico, but some of that cloud cover getting close enough that, this could bring some heavy rain from time to time to the region over the next few days as this moves off generally parallel to the coast. So interest down here along the coastline, the Pacific coast of Mexico, southern Mexico there. Keep your eyes on it, but there seems to be little evidence to suggest that this would pose a direct threat to the coastline, and that includes the Baja. We can see it over here on this satellite shot. Pretty good rotation with it, destined to become a tropical depression probably later today and move on off parallel to the coast. We'll look at the models on it in just a moment. I wanted to point out here in the Atlantic Basin, Western Atlantic, very nice. Bermuda, a little cloudy, but no tropical systems. Gulf of Mexico, free and clear now that Cindy has gone inland and moved on across the southeast and about to emerge off the east coast of the U.S. as a post-tropical remnant low, or whatever you want to call it. Pretty brisk trades moving through the Caribbean Sea. No areas of development seen through there. And this time of year, really, this area is generally shut down due to a bunch of common factors that we see each year. The way the trades move through. Typically, this is just not the time of year we see it happen. You folks here in the windwards and leewards, Barbados, Trinidad, Tobago, all the way up to Guadeloupe through St. Lucia, the Grenadines, Grenada, you name it, and even the U.S. British Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico. Hey, you going anywhere down there? It's going to be fantastic overall, but you got to watch this tropical wave moving in. A little bit of energy associated with it, and we can see here a pretty decent area of convection popping up, and if this moves through while it's doing that, then you could get a brief burst of gusty winds, maybe 30 miles per hour, maybe higher, and some heavy downpours. You probably know this already, but if you're visiting and you're not familiar with it, this is what this discussion is for, to give you a heads up. Not a tropical storm, it's not forecast to be, but these waves of low pressure that come off Africa and move across the Atlantic. Here's another very large one here, but it's surrounded by dry Saharan air, which we'll take a look at again in a different perspective in a moment. But when these low pressure areas move across, these troughs, if you will, sort of like an inverted trough of low pressure, they can bring a period of squally weather, so just keep in mind that if it passes through and you get a brief shower and gusty wind period, don't worry about it, it'll pass through fairly quickly. Alright, so looking in the Eastern Pacific at the tracks, fairly solid area of track forecast. Whoops, no, we don't want to exit. There we go. You get a pretty good envelope there. Tight, not much divergence, that's what I'm trying to say. A fairly tightly clustered track forecast moving off to the west-northwest, just off the coast of Mexico, enough so that I don't think there'll be any problems with heavy rain beyond just a few passing squalls here and there. The intensity guidance over the next few days, maybe up to the next 60 hours or so through here, reaching its peak, and then all the models drop it off pretty dramatically, mainly because it heads towards a more stable air mass and cooler sea surface temperatures. We can see this in the 850 millibar chart over the next few days. Watch this. This is the system right here, and you can see it kind of strengthens there. We're at about the 72-hour mark, and then it really starts to fall off as it moves into this region right over here south and west of the Baja, where ocean temperatures are colder than normal and the air mass is much more stable. But again, some of these greens that show up right here indicate the possibility of some shower and thunderstorm activity, vorticity, energy in the atmosphere, however you want to look at it, loosely associated, or maybe tightly associated with the disturbance. And it reaches its closest point at about 36 to 48 hours, then it moves on off. But you got plans in the Baja and along Mexico. Don't worry about this system too much. Just keep it in the back of your mind that it could produce some heavy rainfall from time to time. Check this out in the Gulf of Mexico. Cindy churned up the waters pretty good up here from that strong agitating southerly flow, but where it made landfall over here because it lacked a well-developed core, Yeah, it mixed it up, the waters up a little bit, but not too substantial. The main action, as we talked about a lot, was well off to the east of that center, and yeah, it really did a number over here. This will rebound quickly. We'll take a look at this again a week from Monday just to show you the change from this map to then. I'll save this one and we will compare them. I think you'll be amazed at how fast the waters rebound. Looking out in the Atlantic Basin, I wanted to show you this. This is the weekly Reynolds sea surface temperature anomalies chart. Really warm off the Iberian Peninsula compared to average, more than a degree Celsius above normal, and a good deal of the Atlantic is running a half to 3/4 and all the way up to a full degree Celsius above the long-term average, while the North Atlantic is colder than normal, focusing that energy across this region. You know, August and September are probably going to be very busy. Not going to be busy over the next couple of weeks, it doesn't look like. I won't say 2 weeks for sure, but the week to 10 days ahead, yeah, probably not going to see much in the Atlantic Basin, despite the GFS and its ensembles, indicating a favorable MJO in phases 1 and 2 here over the next 2 weeks. But you contrast that with the Euro and its ensemble group, and it's quite a difference there. Really not much in the way of favorability in the Atlantic Basin. This has it briefly weekly into phase 2, and then kind of going into that null phase. And you see the envelope here shaded in gray, sort of the boundary of these different ensemble members, each of those tiny little yellow lines. Euro not very favorable for Atlantic development. The GFS says, oh, maybe so. So we'll see. But when I see stuff like this, the Saharan air coming off of Africa, at least that did recently, this is really impressive, and we're going to see these from time to time, even in a busy year. Large area of stable air, probably, like I said, a high amplitude tropical wave embedded in here. This is the other tropical wave headed for the islands, and if you folks in the islands get your cameras ready in the next few days, as this dust reaches you, you're going to have some beautiful sunsets and maybe some sunrises as well. Now, we do have a really strong tropical wave coming off, at least fairly vigorous, low latitude, off the southwest coast of Africa here, and not much Saharan air surrounding it, so we'll see. None of the models really pick up on it, and if they do, it's been kind of wishy-washy. I would be surprised if we had another development this early again. You never know, right? We certainly had Brett, but these are some pretty vigorous tropical waves for this time of year, that is for sure, and we will keep an eye on them as they march westward. All right, well, that is it from me for today. I'm going to take tomorrow off and just relax some. We'll keep an eye on what's happening with Invest Area 93E in the Eastern Pacific, but again, no major direct impacts to land, and I don't see that changing. And so I'm going to take tomorrow off and just chill a little bit after visiting the Gulf Coast for Cindy, kind of clean up the equipment, spend some time with the family, that kind of thing, and enjoy it. And I hope you do the same as well. All right? Have a great rest of your Saturday and the weekend as a whole. Again, I'm Mark Sudduth for HurricaneTrack.com. Thanks as always for your time and attention. And we'll gather around the old campfire and talk about some more tropical stuff on Monday.